Hello and welcome to Workforce Wisdom. I'm your host, Christy Bray, Chief Customer Officer at PracticeLink. This podcast explores the latest trends in healthcare recruitment, highlighting innovative strategies, success stories, and fresh perspectives that are transforming the healthcare workforce. Each episode features in-depth, thoughtful conversations with industry-leading professionals who are shaping how organizations attract, engage, and retain talent. Whether you're a seasoned recruitment leader or just beginning your journey, Workforce Wisdom is designed to help you think differently about the future of hiring. Today's conversation is especially timely and incredibly energizing. I'm thrilled to be joined by Katrina Collier, a globally recognized talent acquisition strategist, keynote speaker, and author of Reboot Hiring. Katrina is known for challenging organizations to take a hard look at their hiring practices, calling out broken systems, candidate ghosting, and process-driven decisions that often overlook the human experience at the center of recruitment. Her work resonates deeply in today's healthcare talent landscape, where competition is fierce, trust matters, and the candidate experience is no longer optional. It's a strategic differentiator. That's why PracticeLink is honored to host Katrina as the opening keynote for the AAPPR 2026 conference in Orlando. To further extend this conversation, we'll also be giving away copies of her book, Reboot Hiring, to conference attendees. Because her message isn't just thought-provoking, it's actionable. Katrina, welcome to Workforce Wisdom.
Thanks for having me, Christy. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've mentioned some of your work there. You've worked with organizations around the world really on hiring transformation, which I think is a very powerful word. What moment or pattern made you realize the hiring process itself was fundamentally broken?
I would say that happened when I was writing my first book, The Robot-Proof Recruiter. When I got to chapter 5, which is the crux of all hiring, which is about the intake strategy session. And I started reflecting on my own experience recruiting when I was in staffing and both in-house. So I've been staffing and talent acquisition. And I'm thinking, the number of times that I didn't have the meeting with the hiring manager about the role and really discuss not just the role, but how the process was going to go and what they were going to do. And then, of course, as I do, I always pull in. So there's about 80 voices in the Robot Proof Recruiter and about 60 recruiters and talent acquisition professionals in Reboot Hiring. So gathered in, started brainstorming in, and it was like, wow, this is where it all goes wrong. Everyone's throwing tools and technology at it, but this is where it all goes wrong. The connection between the recruiter and the manager at the beginning of the process and the role and just so much stuff that happens there. And then, of course, when you throw in what's happened in the 2020s, it's just become even more critical because it's just been interesting. It's been interesting. The 2020s have been roaring in all the wrong ways. So, like...
Yeah, no, I mean, at least we're over halfway through. We're working our way to the 2030s, right? So.
Yeah, bring it on.
I'll have you get your crystal ball out later at the very end, so then we can talk as we move forward. But your career spans recruiting, employer branding, and talent advisory work. How has your perspective on this great hiring evolved?
I think it's just by working with teams and seeing where the problems are. And, as you mentioned, I've had the honor of speaking, and I've actually spoken on all 6 continents. So I have been to events in recruitment and talent acquisition and HR on 6 continents, which kind of blows my mind, to be honest. And I always see the same problem. Recruiters and tell me the same thing. It's the relationships. So whether it's the relationship with the candidates because they're hard to find and hard to engage and hard to keep in the process, or it's the managers misbehaving. And so really it just came from that, from witnessing the work and obviously researching for my books, but also just it doesn't matter where I am. It's the same process. It's the same human problem, which again, we're all throwing technology at and it's not going to fix it because it's a human problem. It's a behavior problem. I think what recruiters do is so incredibly important. And I think day to day we are beaten down and we forget that we change people's lives. Like we're people hiring people for other people and that we change lives and livelihoods. And I think we need to remember that. And I think the managers need to remember that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that especially in healthcare where I've spent all of my career,
Mm,
the work you're doing, you're not frontline staff and you're not in the OR and things like that, but you
mm.
definitely are changing lives and saving lives.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that human experience. So reboot
Mm,
hiring really centers on that one powerful idea, that hiring is a human experience.
mhm.
What are the most prominent ways that organizations unintentionally dehumanize candidates?
Mm, the aforementioned tools and technology. I think it's been such an interesting 2020s, for many in talent acquisition, so particularly for in-house, but I mean also external recruiters. I mean, we sort of had mind you, in healthcare, you've been over hiring, but obviously through the pandemic. But there's been this loss of appreciation. I feel
Mm.
like talent acquisition and recruiters were really coming into their own and really becoming an important strategic function at the end of the tens. Is that what we call them? Last decade. And I've never called it anything. Do we call it the tens? Anyway, as we've come into the 2020s, I think because of the pandemic and then because of AI,
Mhm.
it's just become this, we'll do more with less and just stack people up with so many roles and so much pressure that I think we've just putting the tools in the wrong place
Mhm.
and forgetting that people are human. I think the one that always gets me is there's a lot of tools that will go, oh, we're going to automate your outreach. It's like we've had that with LinkedIn emails, and people don't respond to them. So what makes you think that a tool is going to
Sure.
send a message that's going to be better than that email that they didn't respond to? And you're just going really, and it's that. So whether it's the company is putting it there, they're messing up the outreach, or they're starting to use AI interviews, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Hmm.
Whereas I'd rather see them do it in the back end. Let's free up the interview scheduling, the note taking, the heavy lifting stuff to
Mhm.
allow recruiters to have more time to show their worth to managers so they get their buy-in, and show managers which is what reboot hiring is so much about, show managers how to properly articulate who they need to hire and do a great interview. You don't really
Mhm.
sell the role and the opportunity. And I think if we put the tools in the wrong spot, we just create a distance. I mean, we've been talking about it for years, haven't we? Where you apply for a job and you have to copy and paste your resume from the resume into boxes,
Yes.
it's just amplified. There are hundreds upon hundreds of HR tech vendors. And I'm not anti technology. I'm just anti using technology that doesn't improve the process.
Mhm.
And I always say, has it been created by or with the input of a recruiter? And does it actually save time, money, and hassle? Because
Mhm.
and improve the experience? Because if it doesn't, why are you using it?
Sure. Sure.
And so I think it's the not thinking it through enough of what they're using and where they're using it.
Yeah. So I know this isn't in our questioning, but
Mm.
are you thumbs up, thumbs down on a video interview in somewhere in that? I'm thinking of the
Mm.
tech that came out post COVID that we really leaned into was doing more
Mm.
virtual conversations like this. What do you think?
When they are human to human, so
Mhm.
it's two-way, and you still have an opportunity, the candidate still has an opportunity to ask questions. Because how often is it you just want to jump on the call to find out what the salary is? What's the salary, location? What's the style of working? What's the whole package? And you don't want to do that on email, so you do it on the call. You want to
Mhm.
get a feel for someone as the candidate. We forget that, and sometimes these video interviews are like, well, here, follow a link and record your answers.
Oh, sure.
So for
Yep.
anyone that's neurodiverse or nervous, that's really hard.
Mhm.
Like I've been talking to, like, I call it dead air when you're just talking to the camera. I've been doing it for years and I still find it hard. So I think I don't mind. I think with the rise of AI and being able to fake the interview, and candidates have been doing that, certainly in the technology sector, I
Sure.
think it's important to do this so you can catch people out.
Mhm.
You can try and get them to mirror you so you see their hands going like mine are going, and that they're real. But I just think from a candidate point of view, I think this is much warmer. I understand it is a drain on a recruiter's energy level.
Right.
So I understand why they might just want to do a call, like an actual old school telephone call. Apparently the kids don't hold the phone like I'm
No,
displaying.
they
They hold
don't.
it like a phone.
Right.
I'm doing a 1970s phone because I'm old. But yeah, but actually there's that as well. Like I don't
Right.
mind as long as the candidate has an opportunity to speak in the really early stages and get a feel for you.
Throughout my career, I mean, it's been a mix of definitely the phone call and those types of things. I think with the recruitment teams that I've led in the past, the technology to help the calendar scheduling tools, which you talked about, right?
Amazing.
There's tools that can ease your time and really make you more productive. I had a friend who told me over the weekend she was doing some video interviews. So just her recording herself answering questions. And that's what she was submitting. And I thought, well, you could use AI to write your answers. But like you said, it's pretty cold to kind of to get a feel for someone if you're not engaging in the way that we are now.
Yeah, and we have energy flowing back and forth while we're talking.
Right.
If you don't know to deliver it like you're throwing it to an auditorium, the back of the auditorium, or up here, way louder than I'm talking now, it comes across as very flat.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing, going back to these, my issue as well is when you used to do interviews in an office, you never had back to back. Nobody sat there and did 7 interviews in a row with no time to go to the toilet, grab a cup of tea, have a cookie. Like, what is going on? And we expect people to sit on video calls all day
Right.
as recruiters and deliver 100%. I just think that's so wrong.
It is. Yeah.
And it's not fair on the candidates. It's not fair on the recruiter. And it means the manager's actually not going to get the best people because you can't assess when you're tired.
Yeah. I think it's not just interviews. We do so much. Obviously, I have worked from home for over a decade. It looks like you're from home. The amount of on video, people don't realize you are on. You are on. And it does have a weight to bear in terms of, by the end of the day and how fresh you are or what you're able to give. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it is the video because also, I mean, on this particular, usually on Zoom, I like turn myself off so I can't see. I keep checking my fringe going, what is going on? Because I need a haircut. And it's like rather than listening to you and focusing on you. Whereas actually I quite like an old school phone call because with the audio, I'm much more inclined to, and I'll be walking around the garden or, so I can really hear the call. But yeah, no, you're right. It's funny because I've been working from home since 2009. Can you imagine back in the day? Mobile, Skype. Do you remember Skype? Oh my God.
Yes, I did. Yes,
but there were far fewer videos. We started initially just with phone calls, which were fine. A recruiter screen started with a phone call and that was fine. And I genuinely think that's, as long as it's two-way, not this, but I'm sure all the vendors are now going, Katrina, shush.
Yeah.
I get it. If you're doing graduate recruitment and you've got thousands of applications, I understand people engaging it. But I also just think that we miss good people.
Right. Sure. One of the things that I know is very common, probably due in part to large volumes and technologies and everybody's busy, but the word ghosting comes up quite a bit in hiring, both sides, right? So you posted a job, people applied, and you're like, oh, they're real, right? They want to talk to me, until they don't. Or we hear a lot on the PracticeLink side, I applied for that job, nobody ever called me or emailed me. Why has this become so normalized? And what does it really signal in that employee behavior and culture?
So many answers. Which one's politically correct? It's like, I think the first thing to understand is that when recruiters ghost an applicant, we leave them down or depressed. It's something like 87% of applicants, and I mean just an applicant, right? I don't mean someone's interviewed. I mean, they've just applied. When they don't hear back, they get down or depressed. Well, that I know for fact because it's from surveys. This I'm about to say is more from talking to recruiters. When recruiters get a candidate ghosts them, they kind of get irked. They're a bit annoyed. Or they might go, oh, thank goodness, because obviously they were a dud. Or, they might have started and left. And, so they tend to have a very different emotion, but it's never down or depressed. And I wish every recruiter and every manager who is hiring for somebody understood that if you don't give them closure, they end up down or depressed. I'm sure your friend who's just gone to all the effort of doing those videos will feel really irritated if she doesn't get closure.
Sure.
A yeah or no, literally. However, then there's this weird thing. So we're also massively under pressure from the do more with less. If I never hear that again, it will be too soon. And it is everywhere. Do more with less, right? Yeah, you got to make those shareholders some money. Anyway, that isn't helping because recruiters are so under pressure that I think more people genuinely slip through the net. But there's also the applicant tracking system that can reject people, or the database that can reject people. So you're like, really? But I think what's also happened is recruiters don't necessarily have the resilience. So if one person bites back, oh, but I was fine, blah, 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 that's it. They refuse to tell anybody that they're not back. And it's like, come on, it's the job. There's one role, 100 applicants, you're going to reject 99 people. That's the job. That is what you're going to do every time. Get used to it. So yeah, as far as candidates, I've been saying this for a while. Really annoys recruiters, but it's payback.
Oh,
it's just payback.
Sure.
I mean, how many of your mates? I have a mate who she's read my message and has not replied. It's been a week. She has no idea. I know that she's read my message and not replied in a whole week, and I'm sitting here going, yeah, like it's become this thing that people do, and I don't know. I miss manners. I miss closure. I miss caring for people. Stop ghosting. Down or depressed.
Do you think, are there pieces of technology that could help where, I know there's a local health system here in Tennessee, and they do a lot of that automated outreach, or, when you apply, you get something, thank you for applying. You kind of get some of those types of automated built-ins, or a check-in with that. That feels like at least you're trying, like even if it is automated, somebody with intention set up that frequency of outreach to the candidates that applied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to be a bit braver and a bit more honest. People are not stupid. They know they're not the only applicant. So say you're not the only applicant. Hey, while you're here, we've put together some stuff. You could send them links to little videos. This is, our top 5 interview tips, or our, you could add something that's a value add to them that costs you nothing to do with an iPhone and, upload it somewhere, YouTube, whatever, and send them links and say, while you're waiting for us to come back, here's 5 interview tips, or here's great ways to improve your resume, or whatever it is, or some interesting information about the area, about the company, whatever, right? You can give them something that's valuable. So you're basically paying them for the time that they took to make the application. Right. I stole that from James Ellis, who says that feedback is payment for somebody's time, which is very true. Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah. So you could do something like that, but the tools are there. I'm trying to think of the one. Oh, it's really annoying. This is in the Robot Proof Recruiter, and I can't think of the name of the tool, but would send a GIF. So it would, because people put their cell in, right? So that we use WhatsApp a lot here, but it would send a GIF saying, oh my gosh, we're so excited we got your application. So if you're recruiting people who are in such short supply that you're only going to get a few applications, what an amazing tool to invest in to make someone surprised, because nobody else is sending them a fun meme or GIF going, hey, thanks for our application. It can actually be the team excited. Sure. But also give people permission to follow you up.
Yes.
And also, again, tell them, like, with this kind of role, we expect to receive 500 applications. We know it's really tough not to take it personally if you get rejected, but it's possible. It's a numbers game. Just give people that just treat them like they're human. Sadly, unfortunately, I see talent acquisition not treating talent acquisition very well. So I know what I'm asking is a big thing, but just kindness. I think that we need a lot more of that in the world in general, but certainly in the world of recruitment going forward.
Hope you're enjoying today's podcast. Just wanted to break in here to remind you of PracticeLink's new Physician Resource Center at PracticeLink.com. To check out our Physician Resource Center, head over to PracticeLink.com today. PracticeLink's Physician Resource Center is a collected hub of content which includes valuable resources and information about contracts and compensation, the job search and interview process, quality of life and wellness, and many, many more areas designed specifically to inform and support physicians' professional growth and success. To check out our Physicians Resource Center, head over to PracticeLink.com today. Thank you for listening, and now we'll return to the podcast.
You know, one of the things within the physician recruitment space and with nurse practitioners and we're hiring a lot of first-time job seekers.
Yeah.
And so I think that what you said there was really valuable to the audience. If you're able to follow up with, this is what our community is like, you know, those types of key messages. We've talked for years about just taking an iPad or an iPhone and going through the hospital and kind of walk through the front door, walk through the clinic and show them what it visually looks like. A colleague of mine does some really great drone footage. It's his own drone. He knows how to fly it, but it's impactful for them to get to see. They can't go to all of these thousands of places that want to hire them, but it does give them that visual connection.
Absolutely.
With what it's like to live and work there.
I've got a little clip-on camera that I use so that you can do that. They're the ones that really show your hands when you like reach in for stuff. So if you're self-conscious, you could use that, or use something like a gimbal to keep the phone straight and just walk around. And absolutely. And also because when I think back, I don't think my sister will mind me saying this, but my sister started nursing because we're older on the ward.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, these days they do so much at university, don't they, and less on the ward. So she really understood what it was about. And I think, so actually you're right. Go and show them. And what differentiates this particular place? Why join this nursing role over that one?
Right.
Because they see the environment and that you're proud of the environment. That would be a big part as well.
Yeah.
Love that.
You talked a little bit about kind of that respect or maybe that love for the TA team. I know in the organizations I've worked in, the HR teams or the talent acquisition teams are asked sometimes an impossible task. Go find people to fill these, especially in physician landscape where it's very, very difficult. And they're also the people who get to deliver the other messages. You know, we've consolidated, those jobs no longer exist. I mean, it's a lot. It is not for the faint of heart to be within the talent acquisition space. How could those leaders, you really help to protect that candidate experience? Because you want your recruiters to be on and ready without burning out their teams. Because you're right, the recruiter often ends up feeling worse and really overwhelmed by all of these things happening around them.
Don't assume that this is an easy job. I think that's a big part. I think there's a lot of managers that don't really understand the job. Like, it does not start at interview. It doesn't start at pre-qualified list of applicants to interview. It doesn't start then. The job starts way back over there, like way back. And your recruiters could be digging under rocks to find people. Like, literally, they're looking everywhere. They're scouring the internet. They're using their referral network. They're going back to old applicants. They are working their butts off. Hopefully, they're also using their ATS. I did miss that in there. But to find people, so understand that. But unfortunately, I also think it falls on talent acquisition to explain what they're going to go and do. And this goes back to that meeting with the manager, like, okay, you want this kind of a physician. We do understand that this person is like a unicorn.
Right.
Go through all the, can something be taught, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, if it can't, then, okay, this is what I'm going to do to find this person, and tell them. And then remind them of somebody you've hired as well. Like, the more, we partnered on that role before, this was a success, or I partnered with this manager over here and this was a success. And I think we need to remind them of the people that we've brought into the organization, which means that TA needs to keep track of the people they've hired and see how they're doing.
Oh, sure.
And I think we're now, again, do more with less, overwhelmed, we forget to blow our own trumpets. But so I think it's a twofold. I want more managers to understand what recruitment is because currently, especially, they're the ones hearing this. Oh, we can just automate the whole thing end to end. Yeah, righto. Actually, just give you a little story on that. Back in the 90s, let's just go with the 90s. We won't say it was really early 90s. I started working in the National Australia Bank for my sins, not really knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And they started bringing in the automatic teller machine.
Okay.
And the engineer said to me that all tellers, I think you call them cashiers, but anyway, all the people in the bank who do the money, right, that you'll all be gone. But that's not true. Here we are, however many decades later, 3 and a bit, there are still people in the bank for cash. Now, that cash doesn't say where it's going. It has no say in where it's going. If you go to the machine and you want cash, out it comes. Well, you can't do that with a human, can you? So you can't automate the process end to end. So I think it's like TA telling the managers that, but the managers understanding that, these are humans and they have thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and they lie and they admit stuff. They're like, yeah, I can move interstate. And then the wife goes, or the husband goes, the kids go, like, they don't tell you stuff. And it's like, but that's where a recruiter who's worth their weight in gold will know, because they'll get under the skin of that applicant and the manager. So it's the job does not start where they think it starts.
Yeah. The ATM, that is a great example. I have not thought of that before, but probably because I didn't work in banking to know that years ago they said the ATM was going to replace all the tellers. But
well, look, it did. There are far fewer banks, let's be honest.
Sure.
But they're still there.
They're still.
You can still go in with cash and talk to a human and deposit your cash or take out, like, and elderly people do, because they're lonely and they want to talk. So that was grossly generalizing. They're not all lonely, but it happens.
Yeah.
But it's the same with, we have self-checkout at the supermarkets here in London. It's the same. There's still cash. There's still people at the checkout. Yep. There are still humans, because humans want to go to a human for their shopping. Yep. The shopping has no say in where it's going, and that's the difference.
And sometimes the machine breaks. It doesn't scan. Like, the machine can't fix itself either.
No. Right. We have this funny thing here, though, that people don't. I'm not doing the work of the supermarket. I'm like, really? It's quick. I'm quite happy to do the work of the supermarket. But I also don't like the pressure to bag as fast as they want you to. So I like to scan at my speed, bag at my speed. You're learning far too much about me.
That's okay. One of my first jobs in high school, way back, was as a grocery sacker, and you went out and picked the carts up from the parking lot. But I'm very particular about how my groceries get sacked. That's the experience from that. Let's talk about leadership. So one of your boldest messages is that the candidate experience is a leadership issue. And I agree. It's not just a recruiting issue. This is like, we all have to own this, right? So what does proper accountability look like at the executive level when you're thinking about that candidate experience?
I mean, first and foremost, they need to shift the attitude from we're here to make money for the shareholders to, our people are our greatest asset. I know it's the cliche of the cliches, but what runs a company? People. I don't quite know how in the world of corporate greed we have forgotten that people run our companies, but people run our companies. So take care of your people, because candidate experience is everything. It's not just, you applied and you were not, but you looked at their Glassdoor reviews, or you looked at Google reviews. It doesn't matter. You looked at reviews and just went, oh, they've got a management problem. They've got a leadership problem. They don't take care of their people. I'm not working there. And I'm sure you've had it. I'm sure you've had applicants say to you, no, I've seen their reviews. I'm not working there. So, and the internet opened the door. People always talk about, oh, AI, what's changed with it? The internet. The internet was the thing that changed recruitment irreversibly. It will never, we can't put it back. The internet changed recruitment. So it's like, how you treat your people is on the internet. How you treat candidates is on the internet. So it's for them to understand that, and then to shift their behavior. So to get that, hey, if I don't treat Christy well, not only could she write a crappy review, who's she going to tell?
Right.
Like we're in a place where it's hard to recruit people. We're after that unicorn physician. Who does that physician know? And I imagine it's a bit like incest. I imagine everybody knows everybody in that profession, a bit like they do in tech. So who are they telling? Who are they? Right. So it's like really understanding that, but also just behavior basics. I mean, the stats of the managers that lie, that kind of thing, but also train them. In the UK, it's only 82, I think it's 82% of managers are accidental. So they've been promoted into a management role and not trained. And I think in the US, it's about 75%.
Okay.
So it's a staggering figure where you are a brilliant physician, so you become a senior. I have no idea how it works, but you become a senior, right? You get a team, whatever it is. Does anyone teach them how to be managers and leaders?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. Invest in the training. Give them the human training. We're so focused on tools and technologies and skills and how the human. Let's get back to that. So I think it's a lot of that.
Well,
so,
and
if that makes sense.
I would talk a lot about that. You're hiring folks. It's usually their first job, or their first job out of their training program.
Yeah.
Oftentimes the physician is supervising nursing staff, nurse practitioner, nursing staff, maybe a medical assistant. Zero. They have had zero leadership training. And that's where you get your turnover starts to happen in those support positions. The physician can't function at their highest ability without those folks. But people often forget. They're like, oh, they went to medical school, undergrad, medical school, residency. They have to know how to do this. No, they don't.
No. I mean, I never wanted to be a manager or a leader because I'm just so impatient. I was just like, no, I could never tolerate people. Like, oh my God. But I haven't been taught how to do it either. So I always naturally went, well, I'm not doing that. It's an art. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. And we so often give people these teams to lead and don't help them, which is, it is crazy. So, I mean, and I think the thing is that I'm not sure that they'd know that those attrition rates tend to leak. People kind of start learning, or they see it from the reviews, or those attrition rates not only go out by word of mouth, but they go out on the internet. So people start noticing like, whoa, don't go work there. People only last about 6 months. What's going on?
Right.
So, and again, that makes recruitment hard. And that's why when I say that it doesn't start at a qualified list of applicants, it starts all the way back over here. Like literally people can see this stuff. It doesn't mean they do, but they can.
Yeah. Is Reddit really popular in the UK? That's kind of
I love Reddit.
Okay. That's I mean,
there's crazy people on there.
Well, I don't go there a lot, but sometimes, to go and see what are people saying. Reddit is the hot one that people are looking at right now.
Yeah. Steve Levy introduced me, he's an American recruiter. He introduced me to recruiting hell on Reddit. Which is really funny and really sad at exactly the same time. Like you literally laugh and then you go, oh my God, that's so bad because this is a human being.
Right.
But it's just like, if you really want to know how to not screw recruitment up, go and read How We Are. It's just, So I mean, but obviously there's also completely crazy people on there. So you have to kind of go through and work out the themes. But yeah, I quite love Reddit.
One of the things you mentioned, that network effect, I think is great. I love that part of the internet, making those connections. I cannot tell you how many people reach out and say, hey, do you know this organization? And for me, if I would go work there, I feel like people, take my word on that's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Yeah. Equally, people reach out, do you know this person? So it's both. It can be the hiring folks or the candidate looking that now LinkedIn and things like that, these networks that we have make it a lot easier for people to find out about you or about your culture, those kinds of things.
Yeah, for sure.
We've talked a lot about how much trust and reputation really matter. How does a poor hiring experience ripple beyond the single candidate and really affect the employer's brand long term? We've talked about Reddit and a couple of other, Glassdoor, places like that. But, give us a little bit more about that ripple effect beyond that single candidate.
I think it's remembering, just like in any transaction, if you have a poor experience, you tend to talk about it. Like, we tend to not talk about the good experiences, which is really bad. So people talk. And the thing is that they can, as we've said already, like, talk online so they can amplify that message. But I also think it's just that remembering all the time that you are in this niche market where you don't know who knows who. And that's that, you mentioned earlier that people will contact you. What's that person like? And it's that you could say, I mean, you might not, you probably don't want to get sued, but it's that people know people, and you just never know who knows. And it's extraordinary. I mean, I always laugh. I'm an Aussie living in London, but it doesn't matter where I go in the world, I'll run into an Aussie. There's only 20 million of us, and there's 8 billion people on the planet, right? And 24, 5 million, whatever. Anyway, it's that thing of like, how bizarre. So and I could be talking to them and they know someone, and you just going, how is that possible? But so it's that kind of a ripple, but it's the long-term damage. Reviews don't go anywhere. I mean, yes, you could pay a fortune and have them removed, but most people don't. They just sit there and people read them, and you don't know who's read them and who's gone. And it's not just Glassdoor. There's lots of different sites. We have European sites. We have sites that are for women. It's just, there are specialist sites as well. So you can't possibly keep track of them all. So the best thing to do is just remember to treat somebody well, but especially to give them that closure. And I think that's I mean, people will laugh. I was training a team of recruiters, and somebody actually got rejected from a role they applied to like 18 months before, while we were in the meeting, which was really funny. But it's, people might chuckle when it's years later, when you're suddenly cleaning up the applicant tracking system, but it's just do it. Close people off, let them know.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah. And I would say that is important for our listeners. When you're, we know the physician pool is small, but when you're interviewing these candidates and you do have more than one, or you only have one, and that's not the person that you choose to move forward with, make sure you do close the loop. I've had folks, depending on the level of interaction. So let's say it's just been an email or a phone call, a video interview. But if they came on a site visit, they brought their family to your community, these types of things, you probably have to adjust. That is definitely a very warm phone call, reaching out. We went with somebody else. I don't think, I love your opinion, but I don't think that they should just get that automated message from the ATS that
Absolutely
we went with someone else. Okay.
No, absolutely. As I said before with James Ellis, it's payment for someone's time, right? So the more time they've invested, the more feedback you give them and the more personal it is, because again, you don't know who they know. So fine. If it's a screening, fine, email. Okay. But after that, if it's definitely like a video like this, or it's a in-person, as you said, site visit, you give them a proper, respectful call with feedback.
Right.
I know it can be really difficult. I know that there's a lot of fears of litigation, but there's a brilliant way to put it, which could be they were looking for somebody who demonstrated whatever skill it was, and you didn't demonstrate it well. So make sure the next time when they're looking for specific stuff, you demonstrate it. So they can't really argue that, because you could say the other applicant demonstrated it more.
Right.
And then they can't argue with that. So it's such a brilliant word. But it could help someone, and that's, I think, where I get so upset, where it's more become, I can't give them feedback because we might get sued. And you're like, oh God, imagine if you just told them one little thing and they changed it and they got that next job.
Yep.
And that's where, but you're absolutely right. I think it's just, think about how you would want to be treated. It's our time, it is irreplaceable. The time you're investing now listening to this podcast, you're not getting it back. So thank you, by the way, but you're not getting it back. It's gone. It's gone. And it's the one thing we die at some point. So be respectful of someone's irreplaceable time.
Yeah. And we do a lot of work within PracticeLink and our graduate medical education folks going out and helping these residents and fellows learn. And you're absolutely right. Giving them that feedback will help them succeed later. Yeah. Countless times that I hear from recruiters and they say, remember that guy? He didn't take our job now, but 2 years, 5 years, even 10 years down the line, he remembered, and he remembered that community and the impact that you made, and they bounce back. They'll pop back up. It wasn't a right fit at the time, but maybe now it is. And so you always have to you have to remember that within your network and keep those things warm and friendly. Yeah.
I still remember from the rec who helped me get the first long-term recruitment agency role I had of staffing, as you call it in the US. And I swore in the interview. It was a minor swear word, but I'm Australian, right? We just swear, and and it's funny because Londoners swear a lot as well. Brits swear a lot, so it's hilarious living here that they're like. Anyway, a little word slipped out when I'd been lulled into a false sense of security right at the end of the interview, right? And yeah, I didn't need to swear. It was a little minor thing. But it came up. The rectorate said to me, you very nearly didn't get the final interview because you swore, don't swear in the next interview. The next interview was actually hysterically funny. We ended up talking about all sorts of random female stuff because it was female to female. But anyway, that's beside the point. And I did get the job. But it was like that actually launched my recruitment career. So it was so critical. And so much of the stuff I've written in my first book and even in Reboot Hiring are because of the experience I had at that company. Yeah. But I nearly didn't get that job because I made a minor swear word. And I mean a minor, like a little, like what I don't actually think is a swear word. But if she hadn't told me, she hadn't been bold and told me that.
Yeah. It can be as simple, what to wear.
Yeah.
Maybe some scripting or things like that with your answers. But we've had kids, they don't know what to wear. They show up in their scrubs because that's what they wear every day in the hospital. Well, scrubs are not what you wear. To a site visit. I'm not saying go out and buy a 3-piece suit, but those types of things, I think folks don't really, you think, okay, again, they went to undergrad and medical school and they in residency and they had to interview along the way. It's not the same as a job interview.
No.
And so really coaching them to just to be their best so that's just, it's one less thing.
They will hold you in their heart and they will remember you forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have Martin Medforth always says to me, literally, I don't think I did anything, but I got him a job that changed the trajectory of his career. And I genuinely, I look back and think I don't do very much, but he still to this day, 22 years later, will say, Katrina, you changed the trajectory of my career. Thank you. And you're just like, wow. It's, I didn't know I did that. Like he seemed right to me and I just put him to the client. But, that's what we do. We play with people's lives and livelihoods. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. I think it goes along with, you said earlier, making sure we celebrate the work that recruiters are doing in our day-to-day. I love it when I see on LinkedIn, a recruiter will post a story about whatever procedure is done at the hospital, new procedure, a transplant, something, it saved one life or it was like groundbreaking for the whole world. And the recruiter will take pride in, I found that person. I made that connection. I brought them to the community. It's totally okay to say those I statements because
I've got goosebumps.
It's powerful.
Yeah. I was interesting at an event here in London. I had everybody stand up if their company had like a sales function or a marketing function. And I know it's not healthcare, but roll with it. You'll get the gist. And everyone stood up, right? Because everyone has a sales function, don't they? Otherwise there wouldn't be a business. And I'm like, okay, do you have a bell? Stay standing. People ring a bell when they do a deal, right? Stay standing if talent acquisition is praised for hiring that salesperson. Vroom. Everyone sat down except one lady, and she works for McLaren Racing. So they know that the quality of the people you hired defines whether they win their races, right? Same with healthcare. So it's like it's all about the quality of the people. But it was really interesting the way everyone just went, boom. And now that is part on talent acquisition, like I said earlier, and part on the leaders to recognize this is not an easy job. But if we don't tell them what we do to go find the person, then they will assume you just stick an advert up, people apply, you do a half a screen, you shove them over to the client.
Where do you really see like technology support us in the hiring process? And then maybe is there a spot where we're kind of at risk for replacing that human connection? Going back to your ATM example, I'm thinking about healthcare and how you might see where technology supportive hiring, I think we've covered that, but where might we be at risk?
The second that you outsource your thinking to AI, you're in trouble. So it's just randomly, I was having this conversation this morning with another dog walker, and he goes, "You're not a fan." And I'm going, "Well, I'm not a fan of some of it. It depends." So if you're trusting the likes of ChatGPT, which has scraped all of the information from around the world without anyone's permission, of course, and has created this tool, which is therefore automatically gender biased, let alone biased against people of color, let alone biased against everything else, right? Because it's gathered our information from around the world. So it's just naturally. So if you're reliant on that and you're outsourcing your thinking to that, I think you're crazy. I think you have to, like, the time for engaging this brain and going, okay, that AI output doesn't make sense, or that AI tool is creating a bad experience, or it's not actually saving me time, or the second you don't, if you stop critically thinking.
Sure.
I'm trying not to say God help you, but God help you. Because sorry if that offends anyone, but like literally don't outsource your ability to think to the tools. That's where I'm really worried. And actually that doesn't matter which tool in which position or wherever. I think that's when we need to start being concerned.
Right.
The tools should be helping you and saving you time, money, and hassle, not replacing you. Because again, it's such, humans are weird. They're quirky. We're recruiting humans for other humans, right? It's not you're not like trying to recruit my pen, which will go where it's told. That's my greatest fear. And I do already, and it doesn't actually matter what industry you're in. I already see people just letting it think for them. And I'm terrified by that.
Yeah. I think the way that I approach, at least in my day-to-day, it's an assistive feature. I have a thought or an idea or whatever. You're kind of putting it out there and asking, getting some feedback and things. It's great for doing some quick analysis, but you have to take the time personally to read and think about, like you said, that critical thinking of what it's produced. It's super easy to see when somebody's just copied and pasted exactly what they pulled from AI. Yeah. And not taking the time to have the human words or, something else within the tone of it.
I really would like the ability to turn it off. So I'm still a Google fan, but the Google AI sits at the top. And the worst thing is it's running. So it's gradually destroying the planet. But that's another whole conversation. But if you read those results, they're never right. So I keep going and I start reading the links of all the people who spent years and decades doing the research to write their stuff, and I don't, because I just, whenever I read it, it's not great. But I think the scary thing is, we are being talked out of engaging our critical thinking, engaging our empathy. We've gone through so much of our lives being taught logic down when actually, well, the vagus nerve runs up. Our gut and our heart know first. Use the data to fact check that, sure, but we're sentient beings. What we do is all about that connection, that human connection, and that's gut and heart over. But yeah, it's interesting times ahead, and I think what recruiters need to do, and actually any professional, which I find so sad because I look back in my career and I was given the benefit of learning and growing and developing through, particularly those first 10 years of working in proper jobs. They don't have that so much anymore. It's almost like they've got to justify their existence and their reason they've got a job and their paycheck. Whoa, you made the business case to hire the person. Don't make them then spend every single day justifying, but they do. So actually you need to have, I think as recruiters, it's quite easy, like a logbook of great things that happened that week. Read that on a Friday. So you go into the weekend for like, oh, well, you know what? I had to reject 99 people, but oh my God, I did this, this, and this. That was great. But also my dad called it a cover your butt book, but you could call it a blow your own trumpet book, to have that so that you can always say to your managers, hey, did you know I hired those 3 people? They're doing this. And this is what I did to bring them in. And you need to be proactively justifying your existence. I think it's kind of sad that this is how the world of work feels now. And it'll be really interesting to see how long people tolerate it for, because I don't think it will be long.
Yeah. No, and I think that's great advice. And one organization I would refer to my team, the recruitment team, as the revenue generators, because that's what in the US, that's what physicians are viewed as, is
Yeah.
you're there to bring in revenue for the hospital.
Oh, wow. So different.
Because the recruitment team is often just felt as of money going out, and that is absolutely not true. If you didn't have those recruiters in that team working, there is no other thing happening
Yeah.
without them. They're just vital in that work. So
I mean, internal recruiters can absolutely justify if they've gone and hired that person directly, because they can say where they've saved money, but then they can keep track of how much that physician's bringing in. And I think it's a
absolutely.
case of telling them. Recruiters are not taught. It'd be like we're talking about people aren't taught leadership. Recruiters are not taught to talk business. So it was really interesting writing Reboot Hiring. I'm trying to write it in business speak. It was so foreign. Like, don't say candidate experience. It's like how you treat people, employer brand, your company's reputation. Like, you don't need to use these big words they don't understand and they don't care about, because all they care about is their time and their money and their hassle. But it's that case of start talking business. I hired that physician. They brought in this amount of money. This is how I did it. Boom. It's a fact thing. It's not a, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit blowing your own trumpet, but it's fact. I hired them and this is what they're doing. So keep track of that.
Mm-hmm.
Know the impact you're making. One, it'll make you feel great, but just know it. And then it's like, how am I a cost center?
Let's shift a little bit, just some advice specific as we
Sure.
look towards Orlando and the AAPPR conference. We've talked a lot about the challenges, really navigating shortages,
Yeah.
urgency, and the high stakes that we're all working under. What's a mind shift that our leaders really need to make to help support these recruiters who are out there on the front lines doing this hard work?
I think we've covered it so much already. It's that they're not a cost center. Actually, let's probably start with that. They're not a cost center, because I do address that in Reboot Hiring. And just take the time to sit with them at the beginning of the process, to really drill down and understand what they're going to do, what you're going to do, how you're going to team up. Like, actually, that's a big one as well that we haven't mentioned, is stop treating them like they are the service. And recruiters don't call, the physician you're hiring for a client, even especially if you're internal. They're not. They're your hiring partner. Together, you're going to fill this role because you both have a game. And in fact, I don't like calling them hiring managers, because I think recruiters manage the process. The manager signs off on the role and the hire, but really we push the process. So, but I'm never going to undo decades of the industry calling it that. But but that spend more time in that meeting, understand what each of you are going to do, and understand the impact of not doing that, and how much time you're going to waste interviewing people that aren't right, and all those sorts of things. So don't treat your recruiter like an admin function or a servant or they're not. They're partnering with you. So like level up. And I think for recruiters it can be really scary, because sometimes these managers have these huge titles and it can seem quite intimidating, but they're experts in what they do. You're an expert in recruitment. They couldn't recruit to save themselves, just like you couldn't do their job, right? But you're an expert in that. What you're good at is going out and finding those people and unearthing them and wooing them and engaging them and keeping them in the process through the interview, reassuring them all that time, and then hopefully ensuring they turn up on day one, which can be scary. Sometimes they don't. I think I see it a lot as well when you do have baby recruiters that aren't being trained by senior recruiters. There's a lot of ageism happening in talent acquisition, so the knowledge transfer is not happening, which is a real shame, because all it means is that the functional end up behind, because they're not learning to be like, it doesn't matter what their job title is. It doesn't matter how many letters they have after their name. None of that matters. I'm the recruiter. I need to find someone. You need to explain it to me so I can find the right match for you and save you time, money, and hassle.
Right. Yeah. Future of hiring. So the next, 3 to 5 years, that gets us into the 2030s.
Oh my word. How'd that happen?
It's crazy to think about, but what are some things that give you hope I always like that better than, we've talked a lot about what concerns us, but what are some
Yeah.
things that give you hope?
When I see talent acquisition, especially, but recruiters knowing their worth, when I see them investing in themselves and learning to become that partner, there is an opportunity here to free up your time from the boring stuff and become this value adding talent partner. You're really going to see the difference. You can walk those halls and see the people that you've brought in and the difference that they're making. That excites me. It takes leadership, seeing the opportunity and understanding that, hey, if we take off the boring scheduling stuff and the note recording and that we can automate with the right tools, that therefore we can free them up to be better. They spend more time creating talent pools and engaging and wooing and all of the stuff that means that we hire better people. So I think it's twofold, but I see that being, such a huge opportunity and so exciting. For the recruiters themselves, it's going to take work for a lot of them. They have to understand what it's like to not be just doing the boring stuff, right? And to really kind of go, I'm going to ask these tough questions. I'm going to push back. I'm going to set boundaries. I'm going to show my worth. That's a real shift for some, particularly, again, if they don't have a senior leader within the function to teach them and to give them the confidence to do that. So I see that as being quite exciting. And that's what the tool should do. The whole point of both my books, my business books, is human with technology supporting. That's what it's
Absolutely.
meant to be.
Yeah. So for executives or leaders that might be listening and they say, we want to fix our hiring process. We want to fix some of these things, but they don't know where to start. What's really the first most human step that they could take tomorrow?
For every single role that you're hiring for, spend a proper amount of time with your recruiter talking about it at the beginning of the process. Don't pull out the job description from the person that's leaving, right? And just go, here, shake it off. That'll do. Give me one of those, right? Talk to them, sit down with them, let them grill you, let them ask you dumb questions. Let them understand who it is you need and help you articulate who you need to hire, because sometimes it's really hard to get that out of your head. Let them be an annoying toddler who asks question until they get it, because what they'll then do is find you fewer applicants, but the right ones, and you will spend less time interviewing and you'll hire the right people. So do that, build the trust, create that partnership. So to me, it's all about that beginning of that process. But they might also push back on you and just make sure that you are meant to be hiring and doing stuff like that. Let them challenge you, because they're an equal partner to you. If you do that, recruitment will be so much better for absolutely everybody, especially the leader themselves.
Yeah. I think anytime you can spend the time on the front, you will more wisely spend your time throughout the recruitment process. And one of the key things, you're asking questions about the practice or the hospital, all those things. The reason recruiters ask you is because candidates ask us. Candidates are asking, what is it like? What's the expectation? What are these types of things? And if we don't know or deflect or we make something up, they will always find out. And so it's better if you can provide that day to day. The best experiences, I think, for recruiters, go do a day in a life, go spend some time. You have a bunch of cardiology openings, go round with it, do those types of things so you can understand what it's like. And it gives you more confidence. It also expands that candidate connection with you when you've done that work.
Absolutely. I've got a question in Reboot hiring from Debbie Easterday, another US recruiter, exec search. And she always asks her clients, if someone you love was coming to work at this company, what would you warn them about? Because what you're doing, and there's other brilliant questions in there, but it's like you're getting them to think. Once you get any of your leaders to think, or your hiring managers to think, you've got them. The second they're thinking, they respect you. Like, it's literal instant, right? Oh, whoa. What Katrina just made me think, oh my goodness. Because I guarantee they're going to say stuff that they have not written on the job description. You're going to learn so much. But I agree. I used to go and sit in on interviews back in the day, like you're talking about, you learn so much more than what you do on that job description. But yeah, and again, that's a part of that, becoming that talent partner. Go, as you said, go and be there, feel it, get it in the bones and the muscles.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Katrina, your message is such an important reminder that hiring isn't just a transaction. It's a relationship, reflection of culture, and often a candidate's very first experience with the organization is with that recruitment partner. Precisely why PracticeLink is so excited to welcome you as the opening keynote to the AAPPR 2026 conference in Orlando. For those attending, we are so thrilled to have you come across the pond, as they say, and really provide the tools from Reboot Hiring, because it isn't just a book. It really is a call to action for everyone involved within recruitment. To our listeners, if today's conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to connect with Katrina, look for her books, and really reflect on your hiring process and how it makes people feel, not just how fast it moves. As always, thank you for joining us for Workforce Wisdom. I'm Christy Bray, and I'll see you next time.